is Brandon Esposito. I'm the owner of Classic Custom Rods. I guess where we could start is where I started and how I became to getting into rod building and tying flies and catching fish. And it all really started when I was younger. I was probably 5 or 6 years old. My dad would take me down after work. We'd go fishing down by local ponds and rivers, and I'd throw the traditional rappel out and hopefully catch something. And as I grew older, my true passion of being outside and of experiencing the outdoors came to life. I got introduced into fly fishing, and that's where my true addiction and passion began. And I chased that adrenaline rush, till I'm 26 now. So for almost 20 years, I've been enjoying it. So fly fishing led to fly tying, and then once I got introduced into fly tying and creating my own flies and doing different patterns and then catching fish on those patterns, I told myself, well, how can I get even more into it? And I kind of took a leap and challenged myself, and I got into rod building. And since then, it's just been my true calling, I find. I feel like you're supposed to search and search and search and find for what you love, and I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and this is my element. And I'm comfortable doing this, and I'm happy providing a rod that is satisfying not only to me, but to the person I'm providing it to as well.
All right, everybody, I want to welcome you back to another night of Thursday night fly tying. My name is Tim Hepworth. We're here with Fly Fishing Bow River, again here at Carabel Craft Brewery. Again, want to give them a thank you for allowing us to be here and use their space. We kind of monopolize the entire area, but they're always good with it, so we're appreciative of that. This month, we're doing something a little different. So the group here at Fly Fishing Bow River, we're going to Oman, which is a pretty big trip for us. We're going to shoot a film over there and see what we can stir up. So this month we're gonna kind of focus on some saltwater flies. So today we're gonna do a couple of different crab/shrimp imitations. We're gonna do the Avalon Crab Fly as well as Cathy'S fleeing crab. So we're gonna take you through those two, and then we're gonna kind of go forward from there. Obviously, if you're looking at this, you're seeing this looks a little different today. Von Baldwin Fly Fishing, he built us this pretty awesome desk, so we want to say a thank you to him. Had a little more stuff to do in it with logos and whatnot, but this is a pretty epic thing, so we want to thank him for that. And if you got any questions on desks or anything you want to have made for you for a gift or just to sweeten up your tying room, don't hesitate to give him a call. He does good work. Okay, so let's start off with your package. We'll get into this one here. It's got little rabbit strips in it. This is the one we're going to start with. So this is going to be our Avalon Crab Fly. So there's enough flies in each of those bags to tie 2. So we're just going to need half the material. You can do the other ones later when we're BSing when we're done, or you take them home and you can do it again there. Okay. So we're going to take out that hook. Let's get it secured in our vise. So this is going to be a size 2 saltwater hook. I'm going to use a fluorescent orange thread for this. Depending on the colors you go with, you can kind of vary that, but most of my crab flies I tie with a pretty bright orange. Interesting thing, so this is the fly, what it's going to look like when it's done or similar to this. This pattern is a crab fly now. It originated as a shrimp pattern, and they started having a lot of success with it and figured it actually kind of looked like a crab too. So a little discrepancy there. Some people call it one, some people call it the other, but for our purposes today, we're calling it the Avalon Crab Fly. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're gonna get our thread started on our hook. We're just gonna put a nice thread base down to the bend of the hook at the back, and then we're gonna return back up to the eye of the hook. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take those dumbbell eyes that we have with us in your bag there. We'll take a set of those, And as we've talked about in previous weeks and how we put them on, I'll kind of go over that again for you here. This can sit up really close to the eye of the hook. We're not going to put any, we're going to put just one thing ahead of that at the end. So we need to leave a little bit of room, but it doesn't have to be way back from the eye. So for me, I'm going to leave it there. So I take one securing wrap over it, kind of get it where I want it, put one or two more. It's going to sit kind of cockeyed. Then I'm going to take my thread and go the other way. So we're making a figure-8 motion that's going to, the more wraps I add to one side or to the other, it will pull that dumbbells straight or crooked, okay? So once you kind of get them where you want, then you can just go crazy. Everybody kind of has their own pattern. I like to do figure-8s. I also like to go all the way around just the dumbbells themselves, so it pulls that thread that's kind of gone all over, pulls it tight. So as you can see, I didn't leave a ton of room in front, but I just left enough. We're going to put just a little bit of material ahead of that. Okay? So once you feel like, what's that? Yeah, we're gonna leave these dumbbells right on top, so this hook is gonna fish in this way. So we leave the dumbbell eyes on top, so it'll do that. You can take a spot of glue as well if you want and put it right on top of the dumbbell or on the bottom side of the dumbbells. I like to do that normally just to kind of secure them in there. I just use some super glue. You could use nail polish, hard as nails, UV, whatever you want. Just a little bit of something. So once you got them where you want them, they don't move. They have a tendency of spinning. Okay, so we're going to go back to the back end of the fly. First thing we're going to do is we're going to grab, you should have one set of, or sorry, you have a little bit of orange looking dubbing in there. So we're going to take that dubbing and we're just going to make a little bit of an orange ball at the back of this hook bend. And that actually imitates a shrimp egg sac. So that's what we're going to put at the back there. I'm going to use something a little different than what you have. I'm just using a piece of orange Antron. I'm going to tie it into a couple wraps with. But for you, all I want you to do is to take that, that dubbing, spin yourself just a short dubbing loop. We're going to wrap a little bit of a ball right at the back. Actually, I think I might have some of this dubbing so I can show you in this pack. So you don't need very much of it. Just half of what we gave you is going to be plenty. Just create a small little dubbing loop, or dubbing noodle, sorry. And all we're doing is creating a little bit of a bump at the back there. So we kind of want that to stand out from the rest of the fly. That's good, guys. Good. We are doing a crab first. No, we're doing the Avalon crab first, though. Okay, guys, from that point, we're going to take the one, you should have one strand of silly legs in that, or you'll have two because you have enough for two flies. We're going to take that. I like to bring my thread back a little ways from that dubbing ball that I put in there. All I'm going to do is fold over those legs. I'm going to match them up on the back end so they're the same length at this end. I'm going to take them up and over, and we're going to use this technique on this fly and the next one again as well. So holding my bobbin up like so and holding on to those legs, as I draw one down to the other, it brings it right down on top where I want. And now I'm going to put some tension on that and hold those legs up, put a couple of wraps on it and start to wrap on top of it, and this keeps that oriented right on top of the hook. Now right before I get to that dubbing ball, all I do for myself, I like to just split them. I grab them with my other hand, so now if you look at it like this on top of the hook, you can tell that one goes to one side of the dubbing ball, one goes to the other. So at the back end of this fly, we just want them to stay away from each other. We don't want them always binding or getting caught up with each other. So I hold it in that manner, and I'm going to wrap down right to the edge of that dubbing ball. And for me, I really like these little material clips, especially with the silly legs. They holds everything out of the way. If you got one, a lot of people have them on their vise, they don't even realize that they're there, what they use them for, but it's a good instance to use them. So once we have that done, we're going to grab, you should have a couple of pieces of mono line in there. It's like a 25, I use a 25-pound thread. You just want something that's heavy enough that it's not going to break on you or have any chance of, because this might get abrased on the coral or on anything else. You just don't want it to break. So what we're gonna do, and this is probably horrible, if you have pliers, they say you can do it with scissors as well. I use my teeth. I just put it in my mouth and I just take a couple of bites down the end of it so that you're making it a little bit rougher, because when we tie it in, we want that thread, our thread, to be able to bind onto something so it doesn't. I'm not a dentist, so I'm gonna do it. Don't tell your dentist I told you to do it. If I have a pair of pliers, it's just as easy to just do a couple of crimps down it. You're not really, we're not putting the weight of fish on this, so we don't have to worry about the integrity of it. It literally just scars it up enough that I can get it to bind down. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come right up behind those dumbbell eyes, and I'm gonna try to keep this oriented on top of the hook. So just like we did with those legs, if I keep it up high, I can control where that goes down. And I'm again gonna take this right down to on top of where I finished with those legs. And again, we can just kind of keep that out of the way the best you can. We'll come back to that material in a little bit. How are we doing there, guys? Are you keeping up all right? Yeah, okay. If you guys at home have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. It'll come up on our screen and I can answer them for you, re-ask the question. Same thing for you guys here. If you need me to slow down or need to ask any questions, just go ahead and I can answer them for you. All right, so the next little piece, so we kind of simplified this fly a little bit for you guys today. There's a couple of different manners of doing building a body on this fly. We kind of just going to take those steps down. We're just going to use a piece of this crystal mylar kind of flash stuff. We're going to wrap it up the hook shank. So we're going to take this back and we're going to tie it in. Again, I want to go right back to the eyes because I don't want a bump to build up right in the middle of there. I want it to look pretty even as I wrap up. So I'm going to take that thread back to behind the dumbbell eyes. I'm going to use that capturing wrap. So this is the stuff we're using here. Capture that on top of the hook. Again, keeping it oriented on top. Right back to where we finished with that mono line. Dana, do we have any questions from anybody? Okay, guys. We can. What we're going to do is we're going to return our thread back up to just behind those eyes. We're going to then take this material, and you're going to notice with this, if you hold too close to the back, it wants to unwind on you. So just kind of keep a hand on it in the middle. And we're just going to do touching wraps all the way up the body. And then right behind those dumbbell eyes, we're just going to take our thread and capture the material. So like we said before, we do that capture wrap, 2 in front, 2 behind. Repeat it as many times as you feel comfortable with, so that material is not going to come out. What's that? I captured on top, yeah. And I'm just going to remove the excess. We got more here, it's fine. Yeah, the danger of those beads running away on you. Yeah, and they're super weird with the beads that you guys have there. We're trying to empty them out of a glass bowl, and they build up so much static, you get to like hold the bowl up and they won't fall out. It's just crazy. Super staticky. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to grab those rabbit strips that you have now. And how we measure the length that we want from them is we're actually just going to eyeball a little bit. So you have 2 strands that look like this. We're just going to take the point of it. So making sure those fibers are pointed back. We're just going to gauge basically from the front of that hook to the hook bend to where you made your orange dot. That's about the length we're going to use, okay? So another important thing though is when you mark that in your mind where that is, we want to take those materials and pull them, wet your fingers, pull those materials away, because as you can tell, where you made that spot, they're actually started there and then lay back. So if we cut right there, it will cut some of the material that we're using out. So wet your fingers and pull those materials out of the way, and then go ahead and cut at that point, go ahead and cut your mark. And all you're gonna do is repeat that. So do that again, measure one more time on the hook. Yeah, they're tied behind. So we're gonna go, when you're measuring it, measure it from the hook eye to the bend of the hook. And yeah, these get tied in just behind the eyes. So once we have those materials all the way, every time we work with this rabbit fur, excuse me, when we're cutting it, we just want to make sure we pull the material out of the way that we're cutting, otherwise we're going to waste some of it. So then when you're looking at this rabbit fur, it's got a natural direction that it wants to go. And you kind of want to get all that extra fluff off when you cut it. But kind of the simplest way to working with it is wet your fingers, wet them, pull back. And you're going to see those fibers lay back for you nicely. They just stay out of the way. So when you go to put this in, and some people, what they like to do, and I'm one of them, is right at the tip of where I'm going to tie that in, I'm actually just going to cut a little tiny triangle shape at the end. So if you look at it here, all it does is give me a little bit of something to grab with the thread first. And you're going to find it's a little tougher because the way we're going to tie these in, I'll show you the back side first, is we're going to tie this in right behind the eyes. So we kind of got to get them in there the best we can, get a capturing wrap, but we want those to stay on the side of the fly. So the near side towards you and then away from you. So once you get it in there in a tight wrap, take another one and just you can orient it a little bit, move it, and make sure it's set on the far side of the hook. Take a few wraps to make sure it's secured on that side, and then we'll go ahead and we'll put the other one in on the other side. So just be as careful as possible to get it as close as you can. And a little trick, guys, for tying in any material that you want in a specific place on a hook. Aim a little below when you take that first wrap onto it, because as you tighten your wrap, it's going to twist the material upwards a bit. So if I were to take it, aim a little bit lower with it first, so on here, if I aim below a little on the hook bend and tighten, it's going to twist up into the middle where I want it. Just always aiming a little low to start. Where's who? I don't know. I don't know where Richard is. Did he have his baby? He had his baby boy? Congrats to Richard. Hey, buddy. That's awesome. I was wondering why I wasn't here. That makes sense. That's cool. All right, guys. So once we have that secured in there good, make sure your eyes are still right on top. You can kind of, depending on the color of the thread that you use, for me, I used orange, and as you can tell, I've kind of just created a little bit of a collar there. It's a little bit of a hot spot on this again. Build up that little bit of thread. I'll just let you guys catch up here for a sec, and then we'll keep going. I'm sorry if I'm losing my voice, but I've got a cold for the second time this Christmas season. I'll try to survive the night. I felt fine until after that, and then I was feeling rough. Okay, guys, once we got to that point, we're going to grab that monofilament, and we're going to put those beads onto it. So this is always a fun little dance, making sure you don't drop them. If you do, we got lots of extras, so don't worry about it. This can be done a couple of different ways. We're doing it today with these pearl-colored beads. If you look on this fly I have up here right now, I have actual gold brass beads. So this works like a keel in the water. It keeps it, I mean, the dumbbell eyes will keep it facing the way we want to, but this is extra weight on the bottom if you put brass on it. Biggest thing though is they click. We want to hear that click on every strip, which we're still going to get with the beads, but for extra weight, you can do it with brass beads. So put 3 of the beads you have on there. And now we're going to take our thread and we're going to advance that thread ahead of those dumbbell eyes. And hopefully we've left ourselves a little bit of room. And we're actually gonna tie that in there. But we wanna leave enough slack for these beads to move around. So we don't wanna pull that mono right tight. If you look at the fly here, I just pulled it right tight down. We wanna actually leave ourselves a little bit of a bubble for those beads to move around. So that's what's gonna create that clicking noise. So I would say double the height of your dumbbell eyes. So if you looked at how high your dumbbell eyes are off your hook, just add one more set on top of that, and that's where you want your bubble to be. Okay? And now when you tie that in, we want to, again, keep that oriented on top of the hook. So I'm going to just toss my bobbin over it, and now I've still got my hand on here. I can control how much I want to give it. So I kind of eyeball it. Yeah, I like that. I'll take a couple more wraps behind, pull that mono back, get a couple wraps in front of it, so I know it's not moving on me. Okay? And once I have it good and secured, I'll snip it, and then I'll just put a good thread wrap on top of it so I know it's not going anywhere. We'll touch it with a spot of glue, do a whip finish. We'll cut our legs, and that will be that fly. So if you're putting some glue in, a couple 3-turn whip finishes will be plenty. So one thing, guys, with a lot of these saltwater flies, like we've talked about resins and glues a little bit. So like Zap-A-Gap. In front of the eyes, that's correct, yep. With a lot of these resins and glues we have, like Zap-A-Gap, like I think it was Tom said, can leave a bit of white residue at times, depending on the color of your thread. Me personally, when I'm tying saltwater flies, I'm most of the time using UV. I like it, it's putting a good coating, it gives it some flash. But more than anything, I'm very confident that once I put some on there, it's not going anywhere. So me personally, that's what I do, but use the glue you have. Yeah, and I will. So last time we were here, we were all joking about I should rep loon on here, and I've always used loon, and I'm not gonna say I don't like it. I love a lot of loon products. I love their lights, I love everything. I got a lot of loon tools, but I love Solarez, I'll tell you. This stuff is, as far as not having tack on the fly, it dries really hard, really fast. This is what I go to. This stuff is a thin, I like the thick as well for building heads. Great stuff. I'm really impressed with it so far. Everybody's got their own opinion on the resins, but yep. There's a little bit extra on there, but yeah. What do you prefer? The Gulf, yeah. Yeah, a company I work with, Vision, they're the creators or the co-owners of Gulf or whatever, and I got a buddy who tried it, and he said it's pretty tacky too. Yeah. Yeah, I've used all the loon stuff, but I just find I can't get it to harden. Works really well, like really fast. Like in comparison to, like I would probably hold that there for like a minute with the loon, and it still would be tacky at the end. There's nothing. Yeah, yeah. Like after something to just take the tack off it. Yeah, like I just find that with this, like feel that? I don't feel like I have to do anything. So guys, the last thing we're gonna do with those are we're gonna cut the legs. So if you look at your rabbit strips, you hold them back, you're gonna pull those, you're gonna pull your legs behind that. You're gonna give yourself about a 1/4 inch in front of those. So think of it as you're stripping that away, you want those to be sticking out behind the rabbit strips. Thank you. So if I were to pull those, I'm gonna give myself a little bit of room behind there, just eyeball it a bit, and cut them. And that's our Avalon fly, guys. Avalon crab or shrimp pattern. Depending on the color, could be definitely more one than the other. This would be, I think, a lot more of a shrimp pattern than a crab, but really good, successful fly in a lot of places. We'll give you guys a sec with that if you have any questions. I did get a new vise. Do a little punch for this for sure. It's not a Nor vise. This is a Regal Revolution. I love it, but I've only had it for like 3 weeks. But this has been a great vise so far. We got some people here using it and they love it. So it's a great vise, very sturdy made. As you know, my other one was a stone foe, same kind of jaws in it. These ones are just really easy to work with. I'm loving it, honestly. Lots of features, really easy to change out the jaws. These are the big game jaws. You can tie down to really, really small flies and up to like I think a 6/0 or 7/0. So really happy with the vise so far, and it is a full Revolution vise or rotary vise. So yeah, I like it. All right, we'll give you guys a sec. I'm gonna just walk around a little bit, make sure we're good on that before we move on. How's that? Oh, nice. Looks really good.
Thank you.
Have you done much time before? Is this new to you, or you've been doing?
New.
Yeah?
Yeah, new, so.
Like first fly ever new, or like you've done it and this is just fairly new?
It's fairly like started in the fall.
Nice. Well, dude, you're
natural.
Doing just fine. Doing just fine. Good.
Are you supposed to throw dub in there?
No, you can, but like that's why I said I use orange thread on that one, just so that I kind of make a hot spot right at the top. Yeah. But me personally, when I tie it, yeah, I do. Like I'll show you this. Just gonna borrow this for a second.
Yep.
So on this one, this is the actual pattern, how it's tied. So you actually use a dubbing all the way up to the top, and you take some Crystal Flash, 2 of them, pull it back, but then right behind there, I just wrap it up and then I finish it off.
Yeah. Just to hide it, right?
Just to hide it a little bit, yeah. How you doing, bud?
For my second time here, I think I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome. I think you are too. Awesome job, buddy. Good stuff.
Spot with monofilament too, like here.
Yeah, but
All right, guys. Any questions before we move on? Nothing? That was pretty quick and painless. The next one is a little more complicated, but still pretty good. Pretty simple. All right, guys. So we can have another shot now. That big a celebrity, just stop mattering. Don't even care. Okay, guys. Let's go ahead and grab the next package you have there. So I guess, guys, I should tell you with that last one, that would be it's used for bonefish, it's used for permit most commonly. Tied in different sizes, different colors. You could go to pinks to be more shrimp colored in certain areas. You could go darker. Those rabbit strips, you could go darker for darker crabs. You could go with, there's a lot of sand colored crabs as well, but you could go to green or darker blues. Really endless possibility. But it's fished weighted. Most of the time it's fished quite weighted, so it gets down fast and you're just fishing it on the bottom, hook riding up, so you're staying out of a lot of the mess. You can tie an optional weed guard in it as well, which would keep weeds out if you were fishing an area that had a ton of weed, okay? Very similarly, the next fly we're tying, this guy here is called a Cathy'S fleeing crab. We're gonna tie a small version of it today, so it would actually most often be tied on a size 2, like we did the last fly, but this one we're gonna tie on a size 6. So it's a little bit smaller. This would be more of a bonefish size versus a permit size would be more of a 2, at biggest kind of thing, okay? So go ahead, get that secured in your vise. And I'm again going to use the same color of thread. I'm going to go with this fluorescent orange. So let's start our thread on the hook. We're going to work a good thread base back to the bend, and again come back up to the front, and we're going to tie in those set of dumbbell eyes up on top again, okay? And we will tie nothing in front of the dumbbell eyes this time, so they can be pretty snug up to the top, just as long as we can get a whip finish in. So again, guys, get those first couple wraps in, try to get those eyes set where you want them, and then start your figure 8s. There's really there's no right answer to how you put these things on. Just get lots of thread on them and get them to stay where you want them. It can be more challenging than not sometimes. Go ahead, put that spot of glue on. So guys, that technique that we just used to put those dumbbell eyes on is pretty much how we tie this entire fly. So we're actually using this EP fibers that we call it. So you're gonna have a couple of clumps in the bag you have there. And we're actually really just doing figure 8s over EP fibers. And it looks really kind of complicated at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's quite simple. It's really clean looking. It's really awesome to kind of tie this fly that way. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna grab you're gonna have 2 pieces of marabou in there, so we just need one of them. So grab the little hunk of marabou. So you're probably gonna have quite a big plume of it. We're only really using the last little tips, but I'll kind of show you here. So again, I'm gonna wet my fingers. I'm just gonna pull those fibers so I can kind of see them. We're basically gonna get down, we're just gonna use a small pinch at the end. And this represents, I mean, think of this crab, we call it a fleeing crab, so it's swimming away from whatever's chasing it. This is more or less gonna be our eyes, our claws, our everything. It's moving, it's in the front of the fly. You're hoping you're tricking them because they're just not looking that closely. So there's a lot of other patterns that tie eyes into them and everything like that. This is just a very simple pattern, and this is basically what we're using to represent all those things at once, okay? So all we're gonna do is we'll start a thread back a little bit, but we wanna gauge. So we wanna go about 3/4 of the length of the hook is what we're gonna put behind the bend of the fly. Okay, so again, 3/4 of the hook length is what I'm gonna then put behind the fly. So I would gauge it, set my fingers, switch hands to where I want it, get my wrap down on top of my marabou, and I wanna hold on to it so that I can slowly come back to the hook bend and it stays oriented on top of the fly. Okay? And then I'm gonna come up and I'm gonna make sure that I cover that marabou all the way to behind the dumbbell eyes so that that is nice and even on top there for the hookness or for the thickness of the hook. And I'll snip it off. And then we'll just make sure it's all trapped down nicely. So you can kind of mess around with this. You could do 2 different colors of marabou to represent maybe eyes and claws. You could do a bunch of different things here. As far as the marabou is concerned, you can put in a couple colors. We're just going to work with the one today. So I'll let you guys get that done, and then we'll talk about this EP fiber a bit. So you're going to need 3 legs for this, like 3 full-length legs. So kind of set those out for yourselves. All right, guys, let's give you a second to catch up. How are we doing? You good? Awesome. Okay, so while you guys are kind of waiting there, what we're going to do is we're going to take, so you have those EP fibers in there. You're going to have basically, you have enough for 2 flies. So you got 2 clumps in there. I just want you to separate it so you've got 1/2 of your clumps. Sorry. So you have 2 clumps in there. All I want you to do is take 1/2 of them. Take 1/2 of the clumps out. Try to keep the tips as oriented as possible, so don't pull a bunch out. You can grab this little scraggly stuff out. Now take this and lay it on the table in front of you. So a lot of tying these flies is actually the preparation before you really start tying them. So when we're working with these EP fibers, tying in section after section after section, we want to know exactly how much we need for each fly. So I know, because I've tied on this size of hook a few times, that if you look on this one, there's 5 clumps of this stuff in here, okay? 5 clumps. So I want to take 1/2 of what we gave you, and then I want you to cordon it off into 5 even parts, okay? So again, take 1/2 of the whole entirety of the stuff we gave you and cordon it off into 5 equal parts. And sometimes it takes a little steal from this one, steal from that one, make another clump. And so when you're there, you should have a clump that looks something like this in size. So if I was to pull it down really tight, it'd be like, you know, the diameter of a piece of pencil lead. But when you let go of it, it pops up pretty good. It's about the thickness of a pencil. And then you'll just get your legs kind of ready so you can grab them easily as well. All right, guys, we'll just give you a quick sec here and then we'll keep rolling. Do we have any questions at all before we move? Okay, we'll just hang tight here. We'll let everybody catch up. I'll say for this EP fiber, guys, there's not a lot of things that you can replicate in this material. There's maybe a couple of brands.
So you've decided to get your rod, but you're confused as to how you go about getting all the parts. Well, I've created a custom rod form on the website. It'll go specifically in detail, step by step. One where you're gonna start, last step is where you're gonna finish. So we can start with the thread wraps, the reel seat, the grips. They come in all wide different ranges. There'll be a bunch of options supplied on the website. As you go through, there'll be simple click and click, and then you'll be able to get what you want. And then down at the end, there'll be a note section for any additional things you would like to add to your rod, meaning your name, personalization, you'd like a different, you'd like every guide to be a different color, everything's possible. And I believe the easier I make this process for you, the less stressful it is. And I've realized that as going through, people don't fully understand, and that's why I'm here. And that's what Classic Custom Rods is gonna supply, is communication between the both of us at the fullest to make you as comfortable as possible through this whole process.
Water, that's a lot of times why people use this stuff. Bucktail is the same. When you pick it all the water falls out of it really fast, where sometimes other stuff doesn't. I've never heard of widow's web, I've never tied with it, so I'm not sure, but it's worth a try. You are tying weighted flies, so if it sinks, that's fine. You good? Okay, so guys, we're gonna take that first clump. So working with this stuff, we just really wanna, you kind of just, you roll it, you keep it nice and tight. We don't wanna pull out any pieces, make them uneven or anything like that. You can just pick out the scragglers, okay? And I'm gonna try to show this to you nice and slow. But what I do is, as my bobbin's laying here, all I do is I kind of half it, I tuck it underneath my thread, I pull it up on top of my fly. It's gonna go, sorry, this is gonna go right behind the marabou. So as I set it up there, the thread's gonna wanna pull it off the top, but if I hold it up here, you can see it stays here. So then what I need to do is I need to treat this like it's the dumbbell eyes, okay? So if I lean this forward a little bit for you so I can see, we need to treat it like it's dumbbell eyes. So we need to get a figure 8 wrap on it. So I've gone one way already. I need to go the opposite way over it. Hold it, make sure it doesn't come over. Do the figure 8 on the other side. So now it looks like so. So I've got a wrap on either side. I've got one that's crossed over from both directions. Okay, so once I have that, I can still move those fibers. So a lot of times what I do, if they're not right where I want them, so as for, let's say right now, I can grab those fibers, I can slide them back and forth, and I can move them back and forth. So I set them right where I want them. And what I do is I do a second figure 8. So I go one more time on the figure 8. Pull it nice and tight, and then I take my fingers, I pull those fibers back out of the way, and I do some securing wraps right in front of it. And then when you look at it, you just really want to make sure that those are oriented right on top of the hook, okay? So even once they're tied down tight, you can move them a little bit. Move them so they're nice and straight where you want them. And then guys, we were pretty kind to you. We gave you guys gator clamps. This is the biggest, oh man, it save your butt when you're tying these flies. Pull that back out of the way, put your gator clamp on them. Okay? We need those materials out of the way if we're gonna tie in the next ones. How did that go? Did that kind of make sense? Yeah. Yeah.
No, it made no sense whatsoever.
Come on, Tom.
I wasn't paying attention, sorry.
We will eventually, yeah.
So I can leave them if they're not.
Yeah, just leave them. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna take it, so your thread's right there, so all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little piece of this stuff. So trying to keep the pieces kind of as even as possible. We kind of roll it in our fingers like this, like a pencil. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come underneath it, so the weight of that holds it on there. Ooh, pulled out on me. Just kind of realign it and go again. So I come underneath, and I set them right on top. And now, just like we did with the dumbbell eyes, the only thing is we're going to move this. I'll let you move your thread back. So we're going to move the thread right back to behind the, to where the behind the marabou is there. So if we move our thread right back down there.
Move your thread sweetheart on your hand. Wrap it
Yep.
down.
Just move it down the shank there. Yeah, all those little pieces are okay. We'll end up cutting them all out, but.
Do you want them on now? No, I want this big thread out.
Good. Oh, thanks, man. Talk to you later, okay? Take care.
Sounds good.
There you go. Good stuff. So just like how we tied in those dumbbell eyes is kind of how we're going to do the same thing with this stuff. So we're going to, just to kind of get it sitting there, we like to kind of come underneath our thread. Oops, sorry, get it stuck. So go ahead and pull down on your bobbin so it's tight. So now I have a wrap on one side. Now it's kind of, you just kind of got to hold on to them as you work, but now we need to go over and over on the other side. You understand what I mean?
Like a figure eight?
Yeah, like a figure 8. So you just kind of got to keep a hand on one of them. Yeah, that's good. Perfect, yeah. Good. And now go the other way. So just pull down tight on the bobbin so it keeps tension on the thread. There you go, yeah, and grab them, pull up, good. There you go. So now, if you stop for 1 sec, you've got a good figure 8 on both sides.
Yeah.
Then we orient it back on top of the hook, pull down tight so it doesn't move. Take a couple thread wraps in front of it, pull it back out of the way, take some thread wraps. Just around the hook, there you go. Yeah, the hook's kind of in the way, it gets tough. And that's more or less what we're gonna repeat a whole bunch of times up the hook. Yeah, that's good. Awesome. Good job. No, not yet. You good? Good, guys? Okay. So, guys, sorry about that. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna take our first set of legs, okay? And I'm gonna do exactly what I just did, kind of in how on the last fly, I brought my thread away a little bit. I'm just gonna fold over. It's important we get these tips even, so when we go to cut them, we're pretty much just gonna use just the tip of the bright orange. Down on top of the fly, start wrapping back over it. Try not to knock your gator clamp. And as I get close, like I did last time, I took them and I spread them, like so. Wind back down on top of them to right up against where that EP fiber was, and then just keep them out of the way. You can take your gator clamp and pinch down on them to pull them back. So because just on a little bit bigger hook, we would put 6 clumps in. So every 2 clumps, we'd add a leg. On this one, we did 1 clump, we'll add a leg, but from here on out, we'll do 2 clumps, then put a leg, then 2 clumps, and finish with a leg. So after we have those legs in, we got the gator clamp back on, get them out of the way. Now we're gonna do the exact same thing again. We're gonna take our next clump, we're gonna go underneath, and we're gonna tie this in just in front of where those legs are. Okay, so again, like we did last time, it's a little bit of delicacy in holding on to it, finessing around that stuff, getting that first good figure 8. We can readjust it with our fingers to where we want it to be. Get a second figure 8. We just want to make sure we have even amount of fiber on one side of the hook as we do the other, okay? So you got to get right up on top of it. So if you look at mine here, I can tell it's pretty even. If it's not, I can just adjust it a bit, pull it back, fold those fibers back, put some secure wraps in front of it. Then again, take your gator clamp off, back on.
Mm-hmm. After the first clump leg, and 2 clump leg, 2 clump leg.
That's correct, yeah.
Leg at the eyes.
Leg at the eyes is the last one, yeah. Yeah, on a little bigger hook on a size 2, we normally do 6 clumps, and then we go 2 and 1, 2 and 1, but. Okay, so that's been 1 clump. We did a leg, we did a second clump. Now we add a third clump. So take the next clump. Say that again? Yeah, clump leg, clump, clump leg, clump, clump leg. I'll remind you. It's not that imperative, it's just we want to evenly space them the best we can. And you may think that, oh man, this could still move on me a bit. They could still move around, and at the end, once we cut them, we can get them right where we want them, and then we hit some glue on them. Again, I like to UV just because I know it's not going anywhere, and then everything's really good and secure. 1 clump, we added a leg, then we do 2 clumps, which is where we are right now. So now I'm going to add my second leg. And we use this technique a lot, guys, even if we're tying in flash, if we're tying in anything. This is one technique I actually picked up from Tim Flagler If you don't know who that is, you should check him out. He does Tightline Productions. He's on YouTube. He's got a YouTube channel. He does tons of tying tips for Orvis, and it's just amazing a lot of the stuff he shoots and tips you can learn from him. But just that really simple, that when you control your thread, you can pull any material down, you can orient it wherever you want, get it where you want, start securing it down. And in this case, we're going to separate these legs and tie them down tight. And then we'll just get those legs out of the way again. So once we're at the point I'm at right now, we should have done a clump, a leg, 2 more clumps, and then a set of legs. And we'll add number 4. Number 4 clump. And something that's actually really fun and it makes you look like a crazy artist is if you actually do 2 different colors of EP fibers. So it actually is like green and tan, or you do orange and tan. It looks really neat, and it kind of looks like the different color of a shell or whatever. So it makes you look like you know what you're doing, and you don't have to really do anything, which is always key in fly tying. So we're going to go ahead and add clump number 4. Sorry guys, if this is going too fast for you, just let me know. We can slow down. If you need help with something, let me know. So again, just key to get that first full figure 8, then you can grab those fibers, pull them right back tight to those other ones, the ones before. Take a second, reorient them, pull them back, tight wraps. Once we got that, guys, we're going to go 1 more clump. So we'll do our 5th clump, and then we'll finish with the legs, okay? So I'm going to go clump number 5. And if you think that if you look at your fly and you're like, man, I am running out of material and I didn't gauge this properly, it's okay to have a little space behind the dumbbell eyes. We're still gonna get that nice crab shell shape when we cut it. If you're drastically short, like a 1/4 inch, just grab some more of your material and put it in there. But it's always a proportions game. So much of what we do in fly tying is learning proportion, understanding how much of what material you need, learning how to gauge off the hook size. So a lot of times you hear us saying measuring the hook length to the bend or the gap, hook gap or whatever. It's ways that people have created to try to best understand the amount of material to put on. So don't worry if you misgauged it. We have lots of material, and you should have some extra there too if you need to put some in. So after I've got my 5th clump in, I'm going to pull it back out of the way, get it out of the way, and then I'll put in my last set of legs. And legs are a good topic too, because legs on a crab, a lot of legs look different, but it's really nice if you can get these. These ones are they're a Wapsi by Hook and Hackle, but they're just these silly legs, and you get them with fire tips, so just different colored tip on them. You'll see when we cut them, we leave just a little bit of that tip of color, and that color change can be good. I am going to add 1 more little clump just because I have it here. Wouldn't be necessary at this point. A hot spot behind the eyes? Well, like I said with the last fly, that's why I tie with the fluorescent orange most of the time with these. If you look on the color of this crab, I did that combination when I said the tan and the green offset all the time. I normally use the fluorescent green, and you just build up a collar at the end, and it's a hot spot, more or less. So guys, once we have that in there, all we're gonna do is we're gonna, like a good question Tom had here was, would we create a hot spot behind the head of the fly, or behind the dumbbell eye, sorry. And there's unlimited possibilities here. For me, when you see this fly is finished, because I've used this fluorescent orange thread, the whole underbody is bright orange. All the way through the fibers, you're seeing bright orange. The majority of this fly has like a center base that's a hot spot. So that's why I prefer to do it with a bright colored thread instead of trying to match the tan color, because it's just giving something that pops off the rest of the fly. So let's go ahead and whip finish that, and we will talk about how to cut this stuff. And we'll cut before we glue on this one. Go ahead, release your legs, release all the fibers. So when you get a finished product, it's going to look something like this, okay? So we're going to have lots of these fibers. You can kind of pull them, don't pull them out, but pull them, try to get a nice fan shape to them. I'll wait for you guys to catch up to that point. What I do at this point though is I take all those legs and I pull them down, and I try to pick all that material that's in between those legs out, pull them down, just stick your gator clamp on them. Holds them out of the way. Give you guys a sec to catch up here. Looking good?
Pull away from the hook?
So down, so yeah, when you're oriented properly, then just take them and just kind of weave them down through that material and pull them out of the way. Yeah, and then just stick your gator clamp on them. And you'll see how all that material gets in there. Just try to pick it all out. So when we trim, it's good for all of it. So when you pull those legs down, we just want to try to get all that material that was kind of in there out. So whether you got a bodkin or something, just pick it out. And then we'll talk about how we're going to trim these. Looks like somebody's already trying.
Working on
Keener.
I know.
There's an easier way. Yeah. Okay, guys. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to take all of those fibers, make sure those legs are down through it all. I'm going to just try to pull them all up. So making sure that when we do our cut, we don't cut any of that marabou we had at the front. We're just pulling it right up out of the way. So the higher I cut up here, what I'm actually trying to attain is a bit of a half moon or a horseshoe shape to it, and that's going to give the nice round shape of the crab. What's up, McGran? How are you, buddy? So if I cut it too high up here, the crab's going to be really big. This is actually a very small hook for this, so we're going to waste a lot of material here. We're going to cut probably, if I were to look at my dumbbell eyes on top of this hook, I'm going to add one more set of dumbbell eyes. So I'm looking like right about here, okay? And now when I go to cut, I want to angle my scissors down, start my cut like it's a half moon, adjust it as I go, and come back down to the other side, like so. Okay, now if you look at this, I take those fibers, I pull them back down, so I even them out on the hook, and I got my general size of my crab shell, okay? Nice. And we'll talk about how we're going to trim those legs here in a sec. And this is kind of like a lot of our trout flies, less is more. A lot of the time, just it's okay to not put so much in there, because then we go to cut it out, it's actually really tough. We have this huge plumes we're trying to work with, and this EP fiber will dull your scissors real fast. So kind of the less you have in there, the better, or use a pair of scissors you don't care as much about. So once we got that, guys, we just gotta pull that down so it's pretty even around the hook. We want it to be sitting, if you're looking at this here, we want it kind of 50-50 on either side. you're gonna see that you have a bunch of extra, that stuff that the legs pulled out. Just reach in there, clip it out the best you can. This is a good time to do it because you can hold on to those legs still. Try your hardest not to cut those legs because that's a real bummer after you put them in there. And then when we go to cut these legs, what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull them all down. And these are actually give you a pretty good gauge. So you don't wanna stretch them down, you just kinda wanna pull them till they come straight. And all I'm gonna do is leave just a little hot spot of that orange on those legs and cut them. So if you look at them there, just a little bit of hot spot left on them. And now I'm gonna kinda pull those legs up into the middle of those fibers. And those EP fibers will actually kinda hold those legs in place a little bit. So when it's finished, they can look like this. Obviously, when we strip this, all those legs are gonna kinda push back. And at this point, what I like to do is if you see on, like I said, how that looks like a hot spot all across there, I'm gonna put some UV resin on that. I'm gonna spread it out on there. And then I'm gonna also do the same when you see all your figure eights there, I'm gonna put some glue on there as well. And that's just really gonna secure everything down. It's not gonna go anywhere after that. Hit it with a spot of light. Flip it over and do the same on the other side. All right, guys. Once you got that spot of glue on there, that's our Cathy's fleeing crab. Who's Cathy? Cathy Beck? He knows I don't. That's who it is, Cathy Beck. That's our Cathy's fleeing crab. So you can tie this obviously in a range of sizes. This is pretty small at a 6. You could go all the way up to a 2 quite easily. The longer you leave those materials before you cut them, obviously the bigger the crab's gonna look. Unlimited amount of colors you can play with there. EP fibers come in tons of colors. There's lots of different colors of crabs, so it's good to kind of experiment. Same thing with the legs, lots of colors you could experiment with there. Any questions at all? Anybody need glue or anything like that? I try. That was pretty good. How are we doing?
Not too bad.
We're having fun.
So we just found out that he can do anything he wants, but 2 or 3 of us can be hit by her.
Oh, well, that's good. It's clear to have ground rules before you go into it.
There's hers.
Awesome, good job. That's not bad at all, guys.
That's yours.
Good stuff.
Is a really good one, and then Tim uses the UV.
Looks good. Nice job, nice job. That'll fish. Yeah. Yeah. So this stuff is actually kind of cool. Gonna put some on there? This stuff, I think it's about, for this size of bottle, it's like 32 bucks. It's cheaper than Loon as well. Yeah, so like for instance, if I put this, put a spot on there. So if I was in a sunny place, I'd have to be careful because as soon as UV is ultraviolet light, so just like the sun gives off, which is the same thing as this light. So if I was in the sun, it would harden really fast. So it's soft until I hit it with a light for a few seconds. And now it's hard, so I can peel it off my finger. So putting some spots on there. Lots of guys use it on like little tiny flies too because they can make a little bit of a bubble on its back and something. put flash underneath it, it comes through really good, but it's just really good for durability. But there's lots of different kinds you can get, but this one's pretty inexpensive for what it is. Yeah, if you can try it if you want to put some on your fly.
So one of the other things that you can do, like he just did a little bubble there. Remember how you kept catching the thread? Make a little bubble, stick it on the point of your hook when you're tying. Then you won't nick your thread and cut it.
Yeah, and then you take the torch and so it goes over the hook, and then I'll come around for you a sec here. So on these ones, what we're gonna do is we're gonna just try to get a little bit of a coating, so I could pull that out of the way. Just put a little bit of a coating there. So just pop the top off. It just pops off. It's kind of a tough one to get on. I can help you with it here. I know, I struggle with it too. Normally it is my teeth.
Slippery.
Yeah, it's slippery, that's why. So we just, hold that a little bit out of the way and just put a little bit of a line. So you don't have to squeeze too hard, but it doesn't come out really fast, but just kind of keep an eye on it as it comes out. There you go. And then you can kind of use just the tip of it to kind of move it around a little bit. So it's kind of like almost like a bodkin. Yeah, and you shape it just before, so it doesn't move away on you. Good. And then just take the light.
I do have a UV light in my pocket, but
Nice.
what I do.
Good.
I don't know. What's it for? Silly putty.
Yeah, what's it, a silly buddy? Yeah.
He's got this UV light silly putty, so you take the light and it does patterns.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and that's probably good. And you could feel it. It's quite hard already, hey?
So we'll have to get the UV light.
So if you just hold it for like a few seconds. That's separate, yeah. And you can get much smaller ones. That's a pretty big one, but
You can buy the Solar's.
I think SolarRes comes with one, doesn't it,
The
sometimes?
small kits comes with a light, a small light.
A small light, yeah.
I think 2 or 3.
Like samples of the
Yes.
thick, the thin, and the flow, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. Because yeah, this one's called the thin. They make a thick one, so it's like a really thick, gooey stuff. And they make one that's flow, or that's, what is it, blanking here. It's flow, yeah, so it soaks in, but you can still move it. Or flex, that's what it's called, flex. So you could still bend it, even though it's hard. So lots of applications for all of it, but yeah, good job, bud. It's really good. No problem. Come back, what's that? Come back.
Come back here in like 30 seconds. I got something.
Do you want me to cut it? All right, guys. So feel free if you want to tie your other one, need a hand with it, try out the technique again. Can give you a hand. Well, that is our crabs that we're doing for the salt month. Well, that's good, dude. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, really good. It just takes time, it's practice, especially with the EP fibers. It takes.
From stones to this, I was like,
It's a little different, yeah. Saltwater flies are a lot different. What's up, buddy? Not much, man. How are you? Good. You just want me to shut it down, or are you guys gonna?
I wanted you to talk to
Yeah, I can't remember. Do you want to do a little punch for yourself here? Just wanted to ask you a couple questions. Just you go live on Tuesday nights?
We don't go live on.
You're not, but you guys you have a club though, right? Okay. No, if you mind looking over at Troy and just telling us a little bit. You can kind of be heard through my mic just about what your club is. Yeah. It's okay.
We don't feel like you guys have.
Oh no, of course not. No. This is a community, so we're all about that, man.
It's an interview time now.
Yeah.
So we've been running the Cock and Fly Tying Club for 5 years now, and we meet every winter. We get together after the new year. So this coming Tuesday on the 8th will be our first one this year.
Okay.
We meet, and there's 24 of us usually on average last year, and then like this club, we don't charge anything. If somebody wants to make a donation or whatever, we're more than happy to take that. And, we meet at the Cochrane Alliance Church because the venue there is free, so there's no pints, but
no pints, but hey, it's free to get there.
But
so.
still,
yeah, good coffee.
Good
awesome.
coffee, and somebody usually brings a box of donuts or a bag of cookies or something.
Yeah,
you know,
awesome.
And we just get together and we plan. Last night we had our planning meeting and we set out the year and what we're going to tie for the year and who's going to tie. And
awesome.
So, yeah.
So people can just show up with their vices and a little bit of their tying tools and they're good to go?
Even if you have no tying experience at all or don't have any tying tools, I went out and bought 12 of everything just for
awesome. Perfect. So. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming out and supporting us too.
Hey, no problem, man.
That's
I'll
awesome.
be here next week.
Okay, awesome. Probably. All right, thanks. Thank you very much. All right, guys. That is all we have for you tonight. Stay tuned. Next week we will be back here. We're going to do our second week of salt. What we will say is we had planned to be here for the third week of January, but we won't be. It's Fly Fusions is in town, and so we want to encourage you to go to. Yeah, it's on Thursday night. So we encourage you to go to Fly Fusion. Go to the I4 Film Festival. Go check it out. It's awesome. So we're not going to meet that night because we don't want to be in competition with them. We want to support them. They've been good to us, and we like to reciprocate that. So other than that, next week we'll be tying, I think, a couple of shrimp patterns. So that should be fun. So stay tuned. Thanks again to everybody at home for tuning in. Again, this is my name's Tim Hepworth here with Fly Fishing Bow River, and here at Avalon Craft Brewery. Check them out. Come buy some beer. All right, we'll see you guys later. Have a good night.